Hi guys, it's Leah. Welcome back. Welcome if you are new, and welcome to my spring TBR. Obviously every single month I do my TBR jar picks what I read for said month edition, but there are a couple of books that I want to make sure I prioritize in the upcoming months. There's only so much I can do in order to get these on my TBR because my TBR prompt jar really does control my entire life, but today I have 12 that I want to show you that I will prioritize getting to very soon. I feel like we should start with the fantasy books that I definitely want to get to this spring. I will no doubt read more than 3 fantasy books in the upcoming months. I am in the biggest fantasy mood of my entire life. I've read so many in March that I'm so excited to talk to you guys about. So I'm sure there will be more than 3 read, but these 3 are the ones that I'm kind of most excited to get to currently. First and foremost, we have one that is actually on my March TBR, so I will definitely be getting to this before the end of the month, but I wanted to include it anyway because it's probably my most kind of anticipated fantasy book at the minute, and that is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Obviously this is one of the most popular fantasy books that everyone was talking about this year. I am kind of sad that I didn't read it amongst all of the hype, but I know that there is a novella and also the sequel coming out this year, so I want to make sure that I read Powerless beforehand so then I can binge read the rest and become no doubt obsessed with the series. All I know about Powerless is that there is an enemies to lovers. I think there is also like a Hunger Games vibe, and I absolutely love fantasies with trials or tournaments. I recently read The Serpent and the Wings of Night. That series has literally become my new hyperfixation. I've read all of them that are out currently. So I love a tournament in a series, and knowing that this one is so incredibly popular and most people love it, I'm literally so excited. As I said, it's one that I am going to get to probably in the upcoming days. You will definitely see it in my March wrap up and also probably in a vlog, but I wanted to include it anyway because it is definitely my most anticipated fantasy on my TBR. Another really anticipated fantasy on my TBR is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is another fantasy book that I heard so many people talking about last year. I believe it's a duology. I might be wrong. If I am, please feel free to correct me. I know that the sequel is out now, so I'm really hoping I enjoy this so much that I want to just read the sequel right after, because that's definitely what I've been doing recently with fantasy. This one I actually don't know too much about. I believe all I know is that the magic system is based on cards, like a deck of cards. I have no idea. I do kind of want to go into it as blind as possible. Of course, and it's also labelled as gothic, which was probably one of the main reasons I was so excited to pick it up and to buy it. Somebody on the blurb also blurbed it as this, and this sounds like perfect to me. I'm literally so excited. A beautifully dark fairy tale of blood, rage and bitter choice that whisked me away to mist-wreathed woods ripe with romance and menace. I literally cannot wait. And then the last fantasy that I definitely want to try and get to this spring is one that I actually just kind of decided to add on to here just because I've heard so many people talking about it. I don't actually know too much at all. It is A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. This is the gorgeous Fairy Loot edition. I am absolutely obsessed with it. Here are the sprayed edges, just in case you haven't seen it yet. It is gorgeous. I actually don't know too much about this at all. I don't know why I want to say maybe it's like pirates. I'm definitely gonna check before I even say that. Okay, the synopsis is: a woman blessed by the gods battles to unite a nation under a power-hungry king while also fighting her growing desire for his fiery son. In this Norse-inspired fantasy romance, I actually don't think, like I said, I am fairly new to the fantasy genre and I haven't really read, as far as I'm aware anyway, any Norse mythology type inspired ones. I am definitely becoming more intrigued to experiment and to read some mythology based fantasies. If you have any good recommendations for those, please let me know. I'm always welcome to some good fantasy recommendations. I feel like 9 times out of 10 a lot of the fantasy romances that have blew up in the last year, the ones that I have read anyway, I have actually quite enjoyed them. So for the most part I feel like I want to, in the fantasy genre, whilst I'm still experimenting with what I like, kind of read the ones that were most popular and just see from that. Next we'll go on to my fiction stack. We have some adult fiction, translated fiction, we have a proof, we have some like modern classic vibes. These I am literally so excited to read. Picking from them and which ones I'm going to read first is going to be fairly difficult, so if you have read any of them, please let me know which ones you think I will like, which ones you think I should prioritize. So we're going to kick that off with a fairly new release, and that is Green Dot by Madeline Gray. First and foremost, I am absolutely obsessed with this cover. I think if you were going to do an adult fiction cover about like being in your 20s and navigating your 20s and adulthood and womanhood, I feel like that's how you do it. This book has been pitched as Fleabag meets Sally Rooney. That was where like my original kind of interest came from, and I'm so excited. I love reading books about girls in their 20s navigating their 20s and adulthood and womanhood and kind of society and corporate life. I love it so much. It definitely makes me feel incredibly seen and kind of understood, and I think that reading adult fiction like this as a woman in that sort of experience and in this place in my life is always so real and raw, and definitely at times quite eye-opening, and like sometimes you don't want to read them, but I think it's always so helpful before, and I love reading fiction like this. So this one is like one of the newest ones that I've spotted. The little synopsis on the bottom says that Green Dot is a story about the terrible allure of wanting something that promises nothing, and the winding, torturous, often hilarious journey we take in deciding who we want to be. Next we have a translated fiction, and this one is A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro. Last year I read Eleanor Knows by Claudia Pinheiro. It was my first Claudia Pinheiro. I always heard such incredible things about Eleanor Knows, and it definitely did not disappoint me. I adored it. That book I would highly recommend. I think if you're looking for a translated fiction that is so eloquent in its prose and so lyrical, but really talks about like mother-daughter relationships and illness and grief and acceptance, definitely a hard read, but one that I think was executed brilliantly, and I would say is quite imperative to read. Would highly recommend Eleanor Knows. But based on how much I adored that, this is Claudia Pinheiro's newest release, A Little Luck, and I'm so excited. Absolutely astounded by her writing in Eleanor Knows, so much so that I don't even need to know what this book is about in order to want to read it, and I kind of want to go into it not really knowing too much. Claudia Pinheiro just writes in a way that is so raw, and the way that she depicts humans and humanity is so, even to the grittiness of it and the disgustingness of being human, she writes about it so beautifully. Like, I don't understand how she does it, honestly. Another one that I'm definitely going to pick up as soon as possible that I kind of spoke about fairly recently in my book unboxing was Cursed Bread by Sophie Mackintosh. So I first found Sophie Mackintosh. I've never read anything from her before. I discovered her as she did the introduction for I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman, which is one of my favourite books. And when I saw that she did the introduction, I was like, fuck, somebody who writes the introduction for this book has to be brilliant and like has to be an incredible writer. So here I am. Cursed Bread was also longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction last year. I just didn't get around to it, unfortunately, but I'm so excited. This sounds like one of my perfect books. If you're not new around here, you might know that I love speculative fiction. I love fiction that surrounds desire and like humanity and the disgustingness of it all. Bonus points if it's a little bit post-apocalyptic and gothic and just dreary and very melancholic and quiet. Those are like my favourite sort of fiction reads. And this sounds like exactly that. On the back it does say audacious and mesmerising. Cursed Bread is a darkly erotic mystery about a town gripped by madness, envy like poison in the blood, and desire that burns and consumes. It is set in spring in 1951, which is arguably why I kind of left it purposefully for around this time of year, and I'm just so utterly intrigued by it. I know that Sophie Mackintosh also does have a little bit of a backlist, so I'm really hoping I fall in love with this, and I'm going to want to binge read everything she has ever published. This one, I know all of these are like some of my most highly anticipated books on my TBR, but this one I've been anticipating for months, so cannot wait. The next three books are actually my most recent additions to my TBR. You will definitely no doubt also see them in another book unboxing haul coming soon, even though I am on a book buying ban, but hey, if you don't tell anyone, I won't. We have The Invention of Morale by Adolphe Boy-Cassar. I definitely pronounced that wrong and butchered that, I'm so sorry. This book has been one that has been on my radar for years. I've been wanting to read this book for years, and literally look at how short it is. I don't know why I never picked it up before, but I finally decided to bite the bullet and I did it, and I'm so excited for this, and one that is definitely my most anticipated, honestly, out of all of this list. I just cannot wait. I think this book, out of every single book on my entire physical TBR, is the one that I know the least about, and I was warned when I first bought it that that is the best way to go into it, so I really want to know nothing before picking it up. All I know about this is that it is definitely a speculative read. It's kind of seen as a modern classic, an incredibly short one, like literally like 100 pages. And I did also see somebody make a comparison between this and I Who Have Never Known Men, and that if you like I Who Have Never Known Men, you will definitely like this, and sort of vice versa. And I've been fighting for my life looking for book recommendations like I Who Have Never Known Men. Like, I'm always constantly in the back of my mind trying to find books like that. So if this one claims to be, I'm gonna love it. I'm expecting this to be a 5-star read, and definitely one of my favorite books of the entire year, so I will probably film my entire experience reading it. I literally cannot wait. A book that I bought very spontaneously and I had never heard of prior to seeing it in the bookshop, and I instantly knew I had to buy it, was It Lasts Forever and Then It's Gone by Anne de Marken. This is a new Fitzcarraldo book. I'm definitely wanting to get more into Fitzcarraldo as a publisher. I feel like a lot of the books that they publish, like, I will probably adore. I just don't know why sometimes I'm quite intimidated by them. This one I saw, like I said, in the bookshop, and I instantly read the blurb and I was like, Clarice Lispector. I don't know why it was giving me Clarice Lispector. Like, I didn't even read what was in the book, but the blurb, I was like, this is something she would have loved. This is something she would have written. Just to give you a couple of lines as to what I read on the back, fact that made me want to buy it was the heroine of despair and haunting It Lasts Forever and Then It's Gone is vicariously alive in the afterlife. Adrift yet keenly aware, she notes every bizarre detail of her new reality. And even if she has forgotten her name and much of what connects her to her humanity, she remembers with an impeccable and nearly unbearable longing, a place where she knew herself and was known, where she loved and was loved. Does that or does that not want to make you drop your entire TBR just to buy this book? Like, I am so intrigued. Again, it sounds like one of my perfect books. Another book that is just over 100 pages, and that is all I want to know before going into it. I feel like I'm saying that with all of these books, but I really just do adore, especially when it comes to fiction and the sort of fiction that I like to read. There is nothing like going into these books knowing absolutely nothing and being completely swept off of my feet, and that is what I'm hoping with all of these, but especially this one. I don't know why the blurb of this one spoke to me on such a profound level, but I was like, okay, I need to read this right now, and I need to drop everything just to read this right now. So it is one that I'm probably going to read in the next couple of weeks. Another book that I absolutely hope to get to in the next couple of weeks is actually like a modern classic, or just a classic that I have had on my radar for years. This is a book that I've wanted to get to for so long, and I knew that I would one day, but you know me and my girl Clarice Lispector, I love reading stuff about her on her articles. I've probably read every single article on Clarice Lispector that is literally on Google, and a lot of them talk about her influences, her literary influences, and she apparently did mention this one book, and because of that, obviously that just makes me want to read it even more. The book is Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. So Hermann Hesse, I've heard such incredible things about, and like I said, just never decided to pick one up, but this edition, like, I'm absolutely utterly obsessed with it. Literally all I know about this one too, and like all of the books on this TBR, is what it says on the blurb, and that is Hermann Hesse's short, elegant novel echoing the life of the Buddha. Has been cherished by readers for decades as an unforgettable spiritual primer, a tender and profound moral allegory. It is an arresting classic of modern literature. And every time I say I'm excited to read one of these books, I literally cannot wait to get to this. Dare I say I'm expecting it to change my life. And then the last fiction, kind of translated fiction book I have on my spring TBR is yet again another one that I am expecting to rate 5 stars, definitely be on my favourite books of the year. It is called Woodworm, and this is by Leila Martinez. This is a proof that I received and I had no idea, like I'd never heard about it prior. I don't know how, because it is literally my perfect book. You guys know I love a sentient house, and that kind of goes into the love I have for the Gothic, but anything that is a sentient house, like I'm kind of also writing a novel surrounding a sentient house. They are always, especially in a very literary sense, think like Shirley Jackson. I absolutely adore books like that, and this, how are you literally going to sell me on a book with 6 fucking words? I will say also on the back it is blurbed by Mariana Enriquez, who wrote The Dangers of Smoking in Bed and Things We Lost in the Fire. I've yet to read Things We Lost in the Fire, definitely want to. But The Dangers of Smoking in Bed I read, oh my god, years ago now, and I really enjoyed it. It was kind of one of the first books I ever read like that, and I loved her narrative so much. Definitely trust her if she recommends a book, but she quotes A House of Women and Shadows, built from poetry and revenge. That's all I need to know. And then finally, the last 2 books that I definitely want to get to in spring, we have one romance and one thriller. I definitely wanted to add at least like a couple more genres. I haven't been reading much contemporary romance, but when I do, I love Marina Zapata. So the only other one that I actually own physically from her that I haven't read yet is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. I love Marina Zapata so much. The only ones I've read from her before are From Luke Off with Love and All Rose Lead Here, both 5 stars. All Rose Lead Here is probably my favourite romance book ever. So I'm really excited to read something else from her. I just love the way that they're so slow burn, but by the end, like, they pay off so well. I just fall in love with all of her characters every single time. I fall in love with all of her love interests. I fall in love with her writing and the setting. They always tend to be quite small town, and I would love to try and read all of Marina Zapata's books. I am very aware that there are so many now, and they are all like incredibly long, like 600-700 pages sometimes. They're always so worth it, so I definitely would love to try and do that. If you've read any other Marina Zapata other than From Luke of Love or Rose Lead Here, please let me know which one I should read next. Obviously it probably will be The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, but I definitely will buy some more when I read this, after I read this, so let me know which one I should get to after. And the final book that I definitely want to make sure I get to this spring is a YA thriller, one of my most anticipated books of the year, and that is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I love Holly Jackson. We all love Holly Jackson. Like, she can never do any wrong when it comes to YA thrillers, like the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, 5 Survive. I've loved all of them. I genuinely think every single book I've ever read from her has been at least 4 stars and above, so I'm so excited for this, like fully anticipating to love it. Oh my god, it has just got so dark. I love how it gets the darkest as soon as we're on the last book and also talking about a thriller. Very sorry, I live in the UK. The sun is pretty much non-existent 99% of the time, so let's ignore that. But The Reappearance of Rachel Price is undoubtedly one of my most anticipated books of the year, and I will definitely be getting to it. I would like to hope before April, as it is published on the 2nd, but I will be reading it literally probably next week before its publication or as it is being published. I definitely want to get to it as soon as possible, and I'm just so intrigued to see what it's about. And I love reading her thrillers. Like, I always fly through them. They are so bingeable. I'm genuinely always obsessed with them, and I feel like every time I am currently reading one of her books, they always do become my current hyperfixation, so I'm hoping it happens with this one. Those were the 12 books that I definitely want to try and get to in spring. That's not very helpful for you to see what they are again. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned in this video, please let me know what you thought about them, whether you loved them or you disliked them. Which one do you think I should get to first? Please also let me know of any books that you definitely want to get to in spring, literally March, April, May. What are some books that you need to get to? Or if you watched until the very end of this video but you don't really know what to comment any purple emoji for Powerless, because dare I say this is probably the one I'm most excited to get to. And yeah guys, thank you as always for spending some time with me and watching this video. I really do hope you enjoyed. If you are not yet subscribed, it would mean the world if you did consider doing so. We have fun over here and I would absolutely love to have you here. I do actually have a video coming next week where I give some spring recommendations, my perfect book recommendations for spring, so definitely keep an eye out for that. And yeah guys, thank you so much again for spending some time with me. I really hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again very, very soon with another video.